And I was listening to the Farming for Profit podcast, and they had a guy on it that was a NASCAR pit boss, one of the, for the pit crews. Or whatever. Yeah. And they kind of said, like, what's the one piece of advice you'd leave or say if you had to give advice? And he said, fail fast and fail forward.
I love that.
And I heard it. I'm like, wait a second. That's cool.
That is cool.
It was catchy. It was catchy to begin with. And I started thinking about it, like, yeah, pick yourself back up and get back after it.
Welcome to IronCast, brought to you by GT&E. I'm your host, Jason Gilhooly. In this podcast, we talk all things iron. Whether you're in the dirt, trees, or pavement, it's about real people, their stories, and real conversation. Insight to what's happening in the construction industry and everything in between. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to get things fired up and ready to go. IronCast podcast is on with Sam Davis. Let's get started. Hey, Sam, welcome to the IronCast. I am so excited that you're here.
Jason, it's great to be here. Excited to be here and get to talk to you today.
Yeah, it's always great talking to you, Sam. Tell me a little bit about what you've been doing here at GT&E.
Yeah, so I got to do a lot of different things while I've been here. I'm part-time, so that kind of limits me a little bit about what I'm able to do. I come in only around 11 o'clock every day because I got to go to school the first 3 periods.
So wait. You're in school?
Yeah, so I'm a co-op student through the Elko High School here at the Lebanon GT&E. So every day I go in for 3 classes. I have a Calc and LA and APLA and
just some entry level,
and then
calculus
physics
and stuff
class.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah, not entry level, but the mind bender classes, the worst 3 periods of the day. And you do it right in the morning too. But then I come here, then I do a lot of different things. Kind of been bouncing all around, doing some rental side of things, some services. Helping.
So you've been in our service department?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. I've been in the service department the whole time out in the shop.
That's great. How long have you now been at GT&E on this, I guess what we call a co-op program, work-based learning program that Elko School has? So how long have you been?
Now it would be 9 months.
9 months?
I think May marked 9 months. Yeah.
That's long enough to have a baby.
Old butt.
We got a little baby here. No, I'm just kidding. So when you started, you were 18 years old?
Yeah, I've been 18 the entire time I was here. Yep.
Wow. So you are graduating soon, I assume?
Tomorrow's
graduation.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad we got to do this before you graduate. And
tomorrow's graduation day. Then
I feel like the dad here was seeing my son off starting his life. But no, Sam, you've spent some time here. I'm really curious though, as somebody that's just starting in the industry, what are, even young starting out, what are some of the challenges that you're facing currently in where you're at right now?
I mean, I think the biggest challenge is just not knowing everything. I mean, you never truly know everything, but when you're young, I think it's important to try and take advantage of as many opportunities as you can to learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can, so that you can be more productive and more helpful. And to me, I find a greater satisfaction being able to do something on my own than having to ask somebody for help all the time. So that, I mean, that's always the challenge to me is, what can I do? Can I do this job on my own? Am I able to be independent and being able to learn as much as you can? And that's it's a good challenge to have though.
Does it ever feel like you don't have enough time to learn as much as you want to learn?
Yeah, I've been a big advocate of 36-hour days and 8-day weeks, but nobody seems to want to get on board with that. But yeah,
you're still on that campaign trying to get that started. Huh?
I'm telling you, I think that's the way it ought to be at this point.
Oh my goodness.
Not enough time in one day.
So I'm just interested, some of the things maybe about you. What are some of the things that you're interested in doing? Let's say outside of school and work. Outside
of school and work. Well, that's half my day right there between the two. FFA is still kind of school, I guess.
So you're into FFA?
Yep. I'm one of our chapter officers again this year. This is my second term. Wow. This year I'm the Sentinel. Last year I was the reporter. So I do a lot through that. That ends up being a big chunk of time too. Actually, we're on the tail end of it now pretty well. This morning was actually my last meeting of the year for FFA. We had our end of the year party last night.
Nice.
So that wrapped up. That was pretty hectic there in March. Ag Literacy Week came through March, April.
Yeah.
So I was in charge of that committee. I mean, huge event. We bring that to four schools across 3 campuses within the district.
Oh, wow.
There's over 1,000 kids, I think, we had go through. And so a lot of coordinating of that. So, I mean, the weeks leading up to that, it's kind of like you're busy, busy. But now that's toned down. I hunt. I make time to hunt. I try and fish when I have time. The fishing usually doesn't happen, but the hunting, that I make sure that happens every year.
So that's kind of the priority.
Yeah. My teachers don't always appreciate that. I make that a priority because it does become a priority over school. Neither do my parents. There's often been conversations about that, but I tell them, you know what? Rifle deer season's only 2 weeks out of the year. School's the other too many, so we'll take off. But yeah.
How did you? What was the thing that made you interested in coming to GT&E?
So how I got started here was through FFA. We did a tractor restoration project, a 3010 deer tractor that we did. Oh, the wide front diesel. It's pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then that was the first one that they did. And then I didn't help with that one. And then the next one we did that I helped with, that was my year or whatever, if you will, it was a John Deere 430. And that one it's a smaller size tractor, mid-size tractor. And Colton Ocker at the time was working here in the parts department, and he was also our mentor for that project. And he got a lot of parts and supplies donated through Groff. They were super generous with that, and which was really great because it made the project possible for us. Wangers and Myers actually donated the tractor, then Groff donated a lot of the parts, so we got to do a lot of through that, and they made that pretty accessible. So then what happened is we had the tractor project, we got it all done, we sent it to Farm Show, we competed, we did all that, we came back. I don't know, maybe a month or two after Farm Show, Sam White, Jeremy Helm, Dale, Colton all came into our ag department and said, hey, we want to talk to the people that helped with the tractor project. And
well, that's good. Sam White was there. That's our HR.
She's one you would expect to be there.
Yeah.
So they came and talked, and they kind of say, hey, we're Groff, we donated, whatever. They talked to us about, the tech industry, being a technician, not iPads, but working on equipment, what that looks like. And they said, hey, anybody that worked on this project that's interested, we'll send you to Penn Tech to one of their summer camps for heavy diesel technology and heavy equipment operation. And I said, well, that sounds kind of cool. Sam White's business card was in the bag of like pamphlets and hats they gave us or whatever. And went home, looked up the camp. I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. I'd go do that. I think it was a 3-day camp. I want to say it was 3 days, like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And this was over the summer.
Yeah, it was in like June or July or something up at Penn Tech. So I said, I emailed Sam. I'm like, hey, what do I got to do? I want to sign up to do this. You said you'd send us. I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity. What's that look like? In the back of my mind, I kind of had in mind, like, hey, I knew I wanted to do co-op for my senior year. Like maybe Groff would be a cool co-op. So I emailed her and she's like, yep, sign up for the camp, send me the receipt, we'll send you a check, you'll be all good to go. Said, okay, great. Signed up, got up there, it was awesome, had a super cool time up there, stayed in the new dorms, it was so nice. Program was excellent. I would highly recommend any young person that's listening, I think you have to do it before your senior year of high school. So so if you're not a senior yet, even if you are, check into it. Take one of their summer camps, it's super cool. You get a lot of connections. There's 3 or 4 people that I met there that I still talk to, and whenever like the one guy's down in Maryland, so like comes up for the Sportsman Show, or if I go down to White Marlin Open, we try and coordinate.
So you made some good connections.
Yeah, I had some good connections. Yeah. One guy's garden spot area, great guys. I mean, 3 days I managed to meet some cool people. Can't wait for what college is going to mean for that too. But so then I talked to Sam up there. I said, hey Sam, is there a possibility I could do a co-op with Groff? I said, I really liked this camp. I liked seeing people. I got to meet some other people from Groff while I was up there and talk. And I said, hey, this seems pretty cool. I'd like to try this for a co-op. Is that a possibility? She said, sure, absolutely.
So let me just jump in here a second. So what made you want to do a co-op?
My junior year of school, I almost lost my mind. I'm not a big school person. Like I can do it. It's not a hard for me necessarily, which is part of the problem. I get kind of bored with it, and it was boring. So I wanted to do something. I wanted to learn something that I could take with me, do something with my hands, get some of that hands-on experience. Also being able to make a little bit more money during the school year was a big incentive too.
Yeah.
I mean, you're at that point where you're starting to consider saving for your future, what you got, big expenses coming up. So between the two, being able to really learn something good and a new skill set, and that was a big priority. And then, you know, obviously being able to work and make money is always an incentive for a young person.
That does help for a young person to get,
Yeah. So then that pushed me to want to find one. And then it was just finding the opportunity, and golf presented itself as an opportunity. And I jumped on that and said, yep, this will work if it works for them.
So what were the next steps of that process once you decide that's what you wanted to do?
So she said, yep, send me an email when you get home. I'll start setting some things in motion. I said, that'll be great. Went home, sent an email. Shortly after, she sent me a couple of things back. I had I don't know, there's some paperwork or something I had to fill out.
Well, there's always paperwork.
Yeah, everything's got paperwork.
That's right.
And then for a whole lot longer, it was pretty well seemed like a done deal. She scheduled a phone call for me with Jeremy Helm at the time. Actually, we were on our way out west when he called. I was sitting on the bank of the Missouri River, I think, talking to him, watching the train go by. But getting, you know, the expectations are, you know, what the job will look like, what I'll be experienced, what my experience will look like here. And came back, started shortly thereafter, and had to get my safety toe boots and everything squared away.
That's right.
Yep. And then started actually a couple days before the official school year started. Then my classes started, which actually worked out really well. It gave me a chance to kind of get in the groove here, meet everybody, get all the, you know, you start somewhere new. You don't know anything. You don't know anybody. You don't know how things work.
Being the new guy is like, you don't even know where the bathrooms are.
No, yeah,
that's like the first question I always have whenever I go somewhere new.
Yeah, exactly. I knew nothing. So
yeah,
I actually came here 15 minutes early, and Tosh was the first person I saw when I walked in.
Yep.
I'm like, hey, I'm new here. I don't know what I'm doing. Where do I go? She's like, oh, I guess nobody told you. Let me show you. And she said, oh, Jeff, this is Jeff's desk. He'll probably be about.
Let's talk about that. When you first came in, you got to meet Jeff Rule. What was your first impression of Jeff?
Well, he walked in the door 5 minutes after 7 o'clock. So I don't know. I was like, oh, this is Jeff, I guess. And came bustling in as, hey, how are you? And then got talking, figured out who, you know, introductions, and said, all right, I'm going to take you out to meet Matt, our shop foreman. And then we're going to give you a tour of what's going on and get you kind of in the groove of things. It was pretty much, I was here waiting for him. He got here. He said, all right, nice to meet you. Here you go. We're going to get you going here. And there wasn't a whole lot of poking around. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, that was the way I liked it too. You know, just, you're here. Let's do it. Let's get going. Let's get after it.
Wow. That's so cool. Why don't you tell me about your experience over these last 9 months working here at GT&E in our service department? What are some of the things that maybe stood out to you?
Yeah, so I've come away with a couple of fond memories, definitely from here. I had a lot of great times going out on the road with different people. Got to go up to Lancaster County.
Out with our road tech.
Yeah, out with the road techs doing various jobs up on the Lancaster County solid waste, up on top of the trash pile, with the 1050.
Yeah.
And
that is a beautiful site there, though.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
I've been out there many times.
It's gross and cool at the same time.
Sometimes I forget them actually at a landfill there.
Yeah, it's honest. I've been impressed. See, the thing is, you go to one landfill and then you never look at another landfill the same. Like, we were coming home from upstate. I think it was upstate, not from out west. And we drove past the landfill, and there's trash across the road and hung up in trees. I'm like, well, this is disgusting. This isn't how Lancaster was.
Yeah.
Like, they did such a good job of keeping the trash contained. And that's been a really cool thing too, is you get to see the things 95% of the world never gets to see.
Right. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Like, I know nobody else has been up on top of a trash pile like on a landfill, crawling on a 1050 dozer, replacing track pads and doing whatever else. Like,
yeah.
Nobody else. I don't know anybody else that gets to say they did that when they were 18.
That's cool.
And that's been really fun.
So you got to meet a lot of the people and work alongside of them. I know there's a lot of experience here at GT&E in our service department with our technicians, what's something that really stood out to you that you took away from being around that kind of experience?
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's inspiring because I think some of the older guys have forgotten more than I'll ever know. And it's really cool. You know, they always say surround yourself by the people you aspire to be. I think GT&E has a good crew working for it that meets that kind of mantra.
Yeah.
You know, being here as especially the new young guy, you know, you're kind of like, hey, these guys know what they're doing. They're where it's at. They're the professionals, and it's kind of cool. You get to see that, and you just kind of are a sponge. You're gleaning as much information as you can from all these guys because they know infinitely more than I do.
Right.
And it's been really interesting. And then the cool thing is you work with 3 guys on the same job, like doing the same thing, and you learn 5 different ways to do it.
Right.
Like there's so many different ways to do it, so many different ways to look at even the simplest problems, like replacing traction on a skid loader. But then when your front idler gets stuck, it doesn't want to retract all the way for your track tension. Well, now what do? Do you cut the track? Do you leverage it off? We used a porta power on the one. Like it's, a bunch of different ways to look at the same problem, and everybody's got
there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
There's more than one way. And it's interesting because I've also been out with all of our technicians, our road techs, even out here in the shop working alongside of them. And I too have noticed that there's a lot of different ways that they do things, but it's almost, it's not that it's the wrong, like one person doesn't have the wrong way.
No,
it's just that's wrong. What works well for them. And also too, it could depend on what service truck they have or what tools they have with them. How you get that done. So let's talk some more here. Cause I'm really curious about your time here. Were you in the shop mostly? I mean, how were you out on the road more or?
I was mostly in the shop, and a lot of that was due to my limited time schedule.
Right.
I mean, the road techs, they start at 7 or before. I was only getting here at 10:30, 11.
Yeah.
So, that limited. But I was fortunate to be able to go out with the road techs as much as I did and get to go on as many jobs like that as I did because I really enjoyed those. Going out was fun. It gives you a chance to learn a lot more because you're pretty isolated with that person. Like you guys are both working on the same job, and you also learn a lot on the drive there and back.
Oh yeah.
Like you don't always think about that.
The
but
windshield
conversations,
time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The cab time, the cab chats or whatever you want to call them.
I think we're gonna
almost
start
be another
using
podcast.
That. Yeah, cab chats
with Chris.
So yeah, you got to spend time with Chris. You said Dana,
Ryan Deck, Ryan Marburger.
We got a lot of Ryans here. I noticed.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 of them.
At least I don't know. It's like cats.
Well, if Neathammer's here and parts Ryan, and then 2 Ryans
there's a lot of Ryans.
Yeah, you can get 4.
We can have 4. Yeah,
4 all in the same branch at the same day. It's kind of nuts.
At least if you call Ryan, you'll at least get one person.
Yeah, you should get one answer.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, most of my time then was out in the shop too. I didn't spend very much time in the parts department. I'd pull parts for jobs I was working on or helping somebody with, but I didn't learn the systems or how they do things. That was their own different sort of world. But yeah, out in the shop working out there most of the time with a lot of the techs out there.
Yeah. Earlier we were talking, you're in like honors AP classes, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I was just joking. I said like entry level because I'm just blown away. You're obviously, I'm sure if we didn't tell people initially that you're 18 years old, they probably would have thought you were much, much older. So I'm just curious, what drove you to come into this industry, to learn more, to be around it more, to experience the experience of others while you're working alongside of them? So what are some of the things, if we talk about the industry, you're in these honors AP classes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And how does those folks, I hate to use that, but how is being in this industry looked at in that perspective?
I mean, it definitely depends who you ask. I know I have friends that sometimes there's a reason I don't show up to school in dirty clothes. Let's put it that way. You make sure you're clean when you go to an honors class, because there's definitely a stereotype, if you will, that surrounds that. That's grungy, that's dirty work. We don't do that. But I think it's kind of important. I think everybody should have to work with their hands for a little bit in their life, especially as a young person. But it's really interesting because I was fortunate that I grew up with parents that knew the trades. My dad's a machinist. He has his own machine shop.
Oh, wow.
Both my parents have college education. My mom has her master's degree. She's looking at her second master's.
Wow.
But yet at the same time, they acknowledge the fact that the trades are viable pathways. But they're big on having educated kids.
Mm.
So they say, yeah, go if you want to go into trades, go into trades. That's awesome. But be educated about it. And I think that's a big disconnect, is that in school, especially public schools, is that there's this huge push for college. And if you're an honors AP kid, you feel that like, hey, we're setting you up for college. That's the conversation. We're setting you up for college. When you get to college, this is how it's going to be. Professors are going to do this. When you get to, this is college level work. We're expecting college level things. Well, what if I don't want to go to college? What if the kid sitting next to me, who's a smart kid, doesn't want to go to college, but they don't want to take the CP classes because it's too easy?
Right.
You don't want to sit in school and be bored, so they take the honors classes. And I think that's the attitude that should be changed or reevaluated, is that, Micro, I don't know if you're familiar with what he has at all with the Micro Works, and he has a poster, and he tells a story about how his guidance counselor had a poster that said, work smarter, not harder.
Correct.
And, had a picture of a college graduate, like all high and mighty, and then like a mechanic, like kind of dirty and grungy, dim lit, whatever. And he came with the slogan, work smarter and harder.
That's right.
So,
wow.
Take that attitude, be the smart person, but also be willing to work hard and apply yourself. And I've been really interested and the more you start thinking like that, the more you start thinking about anything, the more you start to see like common trends. There's a guy on YouTube, RR Buildings, Kyle, his name is, and he was the valedictorian of his class. He went to school for computer engineering or software engineering, something like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And now he's running a construction company building pool buildings. But it's so cool to me to watch these people that are really smart people that I think are really intelligent, like my parents, really intelligent people, but yet they're working in the trades, and it shows that you can take it to a different level of success.
Right.
Like you can take that, you can be an intelligent individual and do this work, and it's really, you can take it to a whole nother level. And I think that's something that should be talked about in schools, is that college isn't the only pathway. It's not necessarily even the right pathway for every kid. And validate the legitimacy of the trades, especially the industry, the heavy equipment technicians and what they're doing. Like, yeah, it's hard work. Nobody will ever tell you otherwise. You go out there and talk to the old guys, they'll tell you, oh no, you don't want to do this, but it's there.
But that isn't that where the industry headed a long time ago?
Yeah.
It's technology. So honestly, you have to have that work smarter, work harder mentality, because you're going to have to do some grunt work, removing track pads,
right?
That weigh 80 some pounds a piece, and you lift, I don't know, there's 96 on one dozer. You got to do that all day, but then you also got to almost be like an engineer to kind of work on the equipment,
right? And you get into the electrical and software side of things. You can't be a slouch.
No,
like you can't not want to think about things. Like you walk out of that shop and I've been impressed or whatever with how smart some of these guys are. I mean, I've definitely had that mindset or whatever from my interactions at school, they're not always the brightest, but you go out there, you get in the industry, like, hey, these are bright guys. These are really smart guys. A lot of them have degrees from Penn Tech or other trade schools.
Yeah.
And you're out there and you're watching the way they think about things. It's super interesting. The problem solving. And like you said, it is an engineering kind of mindset.
It is.
And you get into it and you're like, hey, this is really cool. This is pushing your limits. This is pushing your brain to think outside the box. And you got to have that fundamental too. And the more that you have from school, that fundamental, like that calc and everything, while you might not be using the formulas, the problem solving skills you learned, the systematic thinking, all those things still apply. And having that higher level, like that willingness to learn, I think can set you apart in the trades.
So is that something that you think would have been offered? Let's say if GT&E wasn't at the FFA tractor rebuild, and Sam and Dale and all those else that weren't there, do you think this would have been, this kind of opportunity would have been promoted within the school?
I don't think I would have seen this opportunity. I think it would have been similar opportunities would have been promoted to your ag classes and your vocational classes.
Right.
But I don't think your honors and AP kids would have seen as many of it, which I think is kind of a shame. I think that's a big thing, that it shouldn't, the trades and the trade advertisement in schools shouldn't be limited to your ag wing and your shop wing, your vocational education. I think it should be a universal.
There should be an awareness.
I think everybody should view it as a viable option for anybody to go do.
Yeah.
This stigmatism that, and that's what it kind of boils down to is, I don't want to say anybody like lumps people together, but people lump people together. You kind of lump.
It's a natural thing.
Yeah. You lump the ag shop kids kind of in one category, CP, VOTEC kids. And then you have like the AP, the honors kids. And there's a small overlap with a small group of kids, but there's a big separation at the same time. And that's a student thing, that's a parent thing, that's a teacher thing, that's an administration thing. And it comes down to things like this, just talking about it, having the conversation about it, saying, and showing people that's a real opportunity. And I had the opportunity last year, actually, in one of my AP classes, we had to give a mini TED talk, if you will.
That's awesome.
And I said, well, hey, I'm going to talk about why aren't kids going into the trades? Like we have a skills deficit. It's a known thing. There's a skills gap.
So and how long ago did you do this?
This was last year.
Yeah. So you're in high school giving mini TED Talks.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. This is awesome, man.
Yeah, it was actually really fun. This teacher was actually really fun. It was an AP, so that class was AP seminar. And then this year, the sequel, if you will, to that class was AP research.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, an AP seminar, we had to get these mini TED Talks, and I started talking about the trades. And it's kind of cool. You kind of look around the room and you could be like, yeah, none of these kids probably really thought about that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it actually made a difference to any of the kids, but
you never know.
It put it in their brain.
It's seed planting.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah.
And what was cool is it made the teacher think about it too, because then we've had reoccurring conversations stemming from that. And throughout my time knowing her and, the past 2 years, it's been interesting, because I like to think it changed the way she thought about things a little bit, or maybe, pushed her to think about things a little bit more, see some different ways of viewing it. And I think that's an important aspect to have.
It is. So I think it is interesting when we talk about, the industry and where it's headed. You're obviously, Sam, you're a bright young man. I was gonna say kid, but you're graduating tomorrow?
Kid's what I am still.
Yeah,
I don't want to grow up too quick. Don't rush it here, Jason. Next, I'll be old like you.
Oh my goodness,
have gray hairs and
yeah.
Jesus, I don't even want to think about that.
I was younger than you when I started my gray hair career. So obviously you're a good kid. We're just gonna say that, right? Have you ever gotten in trouble?
Actually, it's funny as it is.
You're getting in trouble in school.
Yeah, funny as it is. Today I got my first detention.
You got a detention?
Yeah. I don't know how that, I know how it happened. It was kind of bogus, but we're not going to go into the details of how it happened, but I managed to get through middle school and high school with 0 incidents, 0 write-ups, nothing. And then today I got called in the office after graduation. All I was there for was graduation practice and a meeting that morning for FFA.
Really?
And I managed to get a detention before the end of the year. Literally one day before I graduated, I managed to get a detention.
That is wild.
I was lucky. The vice principal was pretty cool about it.
Yeah. And
my detention ended up being us having an hour-long conversation in his office. But it was so it wasn't terrible. But
at least you can say, yeah, I got in detention one day.
Yeah, I would have rather not been able to say that. But it's kind of funny to be like, yeah, I got the day before I graduated.
Yeah. I have kids too. And in fact, my son, he got in trouble. He was chewing on electrical wires. So I had to ground him. He's currently doing, he's currently doing pretty good. he's conducting himself properly.
Oh my word!
I forgot.
They just keep getting worse and worse.
Do they really? It's weird because I really feel like a dad here telling dad jokes too, because you can literally be my son.
Well, hey, at least it was only electrical wires.
That's at least. Do you have any good
shocking experience right there?
That is do you have any good dad jokes?
Yeah. Well, hey, what do you get from a dwarf cow?
I have no idea.
Condensed milk.
Condensed milk.
If you thought yours were bad, I can make them worse.
There is a point in your life, Sam, and I feel like the old guy here saying this. Dad jokes really get good in a bad way when you have your kid. It's like a switch that turns on, and all of a sudden they get funnier and funnier.
Suddenly it's all that much funnier to you. Yeah.
So moving on here, there is definitely a stigma. Now that we got sidetracked from the dad jokes, we're gonna
rein it back in here.
We're gonna reel this one back in, and I will apologize ahead of time. Just because the nature of our conversation and our age gap, there might be an extra amount of dad jokes in our talk. But moving on, because I'm really curious here to go down this venture a little bit with you. Is that stigma? Because I know it's a result of where this industry is headed. There's obviously not enough experienced workers out there because of the age group that's, phasing out of the industry. They're retiring, they're moving on. Where do you see, as we have a generation gap. I'm a millennial, I'm older millennial, and you're a Gen Z. So it's kind of like, I've always pictured this, and I know we had a conversation about this in one of our chats before, out there. When we were together, we were talking about the stigma of Gen Z. What are your thoughts about some of that stigma, like this new generation, nobody wants to work? Where do you see this industry going with that stigma that's out there for your generation?
I think it's a tricky kind of balance because I find, maybe this is a conceited view, but I find that there is some truth to that my generation doesn't want to work or whatever. I think, I shouldn't say it's true, but I think the priorities of things people want to work at is different than maybe it was in Gen X or millennial generation. That that coming into trades, working with your hands, kids don't seem as into doing that as anymore. And some people take that as, well, kids don't want to work, they want an easy job. But the other thing with that is I think it provides a unique opportunity for those kids that do want to do it. It kind of gives you a chance to really make it ahead of everybody else. Because if you're an ambitious person and you are somewhat intelligent, even if you're just willing to learn and you're willing to put the work in, you can do whatever you want in the trades. I mean, you can do whatever you want anywhere.
The sky's the limit.
Sky, exactly. I mean, we talked about this earlier. Like, if you're an ambitious person, you get into the diesel tech industry and you're working on equipment, you can just get after it and you can do as much as you want. Companies, I know Groff does that. I see the way they treat some of their road techs that will go above and beyond for them. Like,
oh, for sure.
Like, and if you're in a company that doesn't treat you the way you want to be treated, every other company has a for hiring sign out front. Like, everybody wants good workers. So for those people that want to do it and want to be good workers and want to put it in, you can just blow everybody else out of the water. And I think that's the coolest thing about where we're at with this generation and my generation is that for everybody that wants to do it and wants to get after it, we can just go do it. There's no line to get in the door.
Yeah.
Like, I heard, like, my mom, when she started out, substitute teaching and stuff too, like, become a teacher, you had to wait who knows how long to get a job because there were teachers everywhere. Same with the trades. Like, there was a time when it was hard to get in with a company because they had a wait list of apprentices because people wanted to work there.
For sure.
But now we're not at that point. So you can just go and you can do it. And that's another thing that I think is kind of interesting is I think there's like a revitalization almost of the trade schools, like the trade colleges, Because then you have kids coming out, they go into a school for 2 years or a year, 22 months, whatever, and they're just jammed full of information as much as they can. They're coming out knowing more than what you might, learning curve is so much sharper and quicker that they're coming out after 2 years able to do way more than you might learn in a 2-year apprenticeship. Because, apprenticeship, you might get stuck with some of those, floor sweeping jobs that you're not learning necessarily the hands-on things right away. So I think it's kind of, I'm going to keep saying it, present a unique opportunity where you can really just lay it all out on the line and put yourself totally into it and grow and learn as much as you can as quickly as you can and go as far as you really want to. And I think that's kind of cool, and it's kind of scary because you need to have people to fill that need.
Well, and I think that's something that is, unsaid but known at times. If everybody goes to college,
right?
Who's gonna fix the car or the truck or the equipment that builds the building for the new college?
Right.
And maybe that's something of the stigma too. We were kind of coming back to what we were originally talking about. And I think you really hit the nail on the head is, okay, there's a lot of technology in this equipment.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of technology in things that, used to be pretty rudimentary. And it was just nuts and bolts and you tighten A and B and C moves freely again. It's that kind of mentality before. I think that you're onto something here. And I think we, can clearly see that you understand that. And it even seems to me that, Sam, you're taking that initiative and you're making that awareness in your school. And obviously being here on the IronCast, you got a pretty good audience. So what would you say to, let's say, our listeners that are, own a construction company, or let's say they own a repair shop, they're at another dealer or whatever they're doing, because they obviously know that they need good employees. And that stigma that's still out there that, Gen Z, they don't want to work. What would you like to say to them?
Take a chance on that kid that's interested, even if they seem like they're not that demographic. Like, I came to Groff not really knowing a lot. I didn't go to Votech. I didn't have a vocational background. I didn't know a ton about heavy equipment. Like, I'd been around it. I, have family that has it, friends and stuff, and I'd been around it. But I was by no means necessarily qualified for the job, the co-op position. But they were willing enough to take a chance on me to bring me in here, and I've learned so much. And that's one thing I'd say to anybody. You can't expect somebody to know how to do the job anymore.
Right.
Like, you can't expect a kid to come out of high school and be able to, like, you honestly can't expect some kids to come out of high school and know how to change the oil out of an engine. So, be willing to take that chance and put a little bit of investment in somebody. And, maybe you'll get burned, they'll leave or move somewhere else. But also know that you put that information out there into the world, and that's where you're really getting your time back.
Yeah.
It might not be to you directly. If you can look past, hey, this person might not stick with me forever, but I just launched somebody into the trades. Like, I helped somebody get started to make a difference in the broad scheme. If you can, look at it beyond your company, but look at it as the trades as a whole, the industry as a whole, taking that chance on somebody could have a difference. It could make a difference. And
there's obviously an investment that has to be put in anytime you hire somebody. But obviously there's also money it costs when you have a revolving door.
Right.
So it's almost like if owners of companies or managers or anybody that's hiring somebody, they see a young kid, it's almost like they have to look past that stigma. And initially what you said, that here's somebody that has a desire to work.
Right.
They showed up 15 minutes early.
Or they came to you and asked, hey, do you have a job for me? Can I come here?
Yeah.
Like, jump on that. Because there's not a lot of them that are going to do that.
Yeah.
If they're early, in my experience with kids I work with, even just trying to do things like meetings for school and stuff, like,
right.
If you have kids that are showing up early and want to do things, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
They're not all like that.
And that's probably intergenerational. Every generation
has those people. Yeah.
It's interesting too. I'm a millennial. You're the Gen Z, like we said before.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought about this. It's like when I came into the industry, it was flooded. There was baby boomers, Gen X.
Right.
And I'm in the elder. Actually, they even call it like it's a niche or a sub generation. And I think it and I don't know the dates exactly, but anywhere from like probably 78 to like 86.
Okay.
And in those 1970, 78 to like 1986, somewhere in that range. They call them X-lennials.
Mm.
And it's interesting because we didn't have smartphones. Even up through, we had even when I was in high school, we had like Nokia bricks, we call them. Like you could literally, if somebody was chasing, you could throw it at them and it would probably, injure them and let you run away. So, but we had like a computer lab, and it was the old Apple, whatever they were, playing the Oregon Trail kind of stuff.
Oh, geez.
Just a shout out to my ex-millennials out there. It's interesting though, but the generations before paved the way for future generations to enter into the industry. But the thing is, the technology increase is exponential, coming full circle to what we were talking about earlier, Sam. And I love that point that you made, with the technology, being an honors student, wearing a mechanic
GT&E uniform.
Yeah. Which, does that even fit you?
So they told me they shrank when they said, size up, they're going to shrink.
Yeah.
I should have sized up twice because they did really shrink.
That's funny you say that, because I'm the shirt that I'm wearing here. And I told my wife about this too. I told her, I said, like, it fits tight. And I told her, I said, I think that the washing machine is shrinking my clothes. She said, no, it's the refrigerator.
Oh, jeez. Well, that might be your problem, but I'm not sure that's what happened to me.
I don't know if that happened to me. And I also told my wife too, that, because she looked a little down about it. So I said, you really just need to embrace your mistakes. And then she just gave me a big hug.
I can't say she did anything wrong there.
Oh yeah, I'm done with the dad jokes.
They are just getting worse and worse.
They do.
Maybe this is why she gave you that hug.
That's the joke. I was her mistake.
I know.
You embraced. Okay. You
I got it.
You guys.
Don't worry.
Oh my goodness. So Sam, you've spent some time here. You're graduating. Oh, do you have any plans for the summer?
Yeah, I'm going to ECI construction for the summer.
Oh, nice.
Yep. We're going to be starting Muhlenberg's new middle school.
Oh, that's cool.
Starting on the foundation work. So I'm excited for that. That'll actually my last day here will be a Friday, and then I'll start ECI the next Monday.
Going right to it.
Oh yeah.
One to the next. That's what I love.
No gap.
Sam. That's awesome. How about future after that?
August, middle of August, I leave for Iowa State.
You're going to Iowa State?
Yep. That's my plan. 4 years.
What made you choose Iowa?
I had a friend that was looking at it, and then I looked at it. Originally, I was looking at it for construction engineering, and I looked at their program and was like, oh, wow, they have a really good program. So I was like, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, how do you feel about taking a little road trip out to Iowa? Oh, you got to be kidding me, Sam. You could have thought of that when we were driving past it over the summer.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? Time's never perfect, but, hindsight 2020. But
that's right.
Let's do it.
I'm really curious, Sam. It seems like we have dreams, don't we?
I mean, we all dream.
We all have dreams. Like, obviously, you got to start out somewhere. We are know-nothings. We get into this industry. I know when I started here at GT&E, at the time it was, with Plaster Equipment Company, I worked in the parts department.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a year just to kind of wrap my head around, working in a parts department, and then obviously progressing after that. Obviously we know you have to start somewhere, mm-hmm. and you obviously have that mindset. But where's that big dream headed towards for you?
I think I'd like to have my own company one day doing construction, excavating. Haven't quite decided what that looks like and that keeps changing. Every time you have some more new experiences, you're like, oh, well, I could do that, or I'd like to do that. And you're like, wow. But I started out with the idea of kind of doing high-end homes, higher-end building projects like that, custom homes. So that's kind of where we're trending. Next 4 years could change that a little bit. I don't know. We're going to see where the road of life takes me, but it's the goal. Just find something I enjoy and do it while I love it and love it while I do it.
Is there any inspiration, anything that maybe you've heard in the past that kind of stuck with you? Maybe somebody said it or you heard it on another podcast. I know not all podcasts are as good as IronCast. No,
yeah.
But no, is there something that really inspired you? Because you seem like to have this just go get it done mentality.
Yeah, there's two kind of words of wisdom that have been left with me that I kind of like to carry with me every day. The first, they kind of echo each other. The first is actually from somebody I hope you'll have as a future guest, Heath Kreiser with BR Kreider Excavating.
Oh yeah.
Every time I talk to him, he tells me, Sam, just keep your foot on the gas, just gas pedal all the way, just mash it to the floor, don't let up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so true. Let's just go get it. Let's get after it. Let's get it done. Do as much as I can, as quickly as I can. Not be a ramrod, but like, let's do it. Let's get after it. And the other thing was something I actually was cleaning up. I think it was a backhoe at the time. I kind of vividly remember this because it was a piece of advice that kind of really stood out to me. And I was listening to the Farming for Profit podcast, and they had a guy on it that was a NASCAR pit boss, one of the, for the pit crews.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. And they kind of said, like, what's the one piece of advice you'd leave or say if you had to give advice? And he said, fail fast and fail forward.
I love that.
And I heard it. I'm like, wait a second. That's cool.
That is cool.
It was catchy. It was catchy to begin with. And I started thinking about it, like, yeah, the faster you fail, the faster you learn. As long as you're failing forward, it's not really a failure. It's a learning experience. So I have a ton of small failures in the right direction than it is to have one big colossal failure.
And send you backwards.
Right. So just keep failing as often
as you have that foot on the gas.
Right. Don't stop.
Just I think that's how you
keep moving forward.
That's how you fail forward. You just keep your foot on the gas.
Yeah, you just keep going forward. Pick yourself back up and get back after it.
You're graduating tomorrow. Obviously at graduations, they give the final speech. What are your final thoughts here? What would you like?
Put me on the spot here.
Well, that's kind of what I like to do here.
Oh man, that's all right. I would say that take every opportunity that you can. Never hesitate to jump on something that comes your way. Hesitation is a moment for worry and doubt to creep in and cloud your vision. Don't hesitate. Just take it. Just go with it. Like, if it's not meant to be, it won't work out later. But don't worry about that right now. You never know what's going to come from that. And I've been very fortunate in my life, especially through FFA and, going through school. I've had a lot of opportunities, chances to go and meet people through golf, chances to go to classes and different projects and see different things. And that no hesitation mentality, as long as it fits on my calendar, yeah, I want to do it. Let's go. You end up learning so much more than you thought you would. Yeah. And it kind of goes back to that, learning as much as you can. Fail fast, fail forward. We're going to get it done. We're going to get after it. Like, be happy about what you're doing. There's no job you can't find happiness in. Might suck. Might not be fun. You might be out there scrubbing a machine
those
down.
Days. Correct.
I've had those days, 470 comes back from rent and it's coated in mud and we need to do an engine job on it. Well, somebody's got to go power wash the mud out of the engine bay and the leaky oil. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to be the experienced guy. It ends up being the co-op student. And that sucks. You come back in, you take your safety glasses off, and you got raccoon eyes. You
surely do. I remember seeing.
Yeah, you probably remember that day. I was brown head to toe. It was disgusting, but I had fun doing it. I found positives in it. You put on some music on a speaker or something. You just kind of
go at it,
zone into your own world, and you take advantage of it. You see things while you're doing it. Like, you're like, oh, well, that's where that line goes. And if you kind of look at things, you kind of get an idea where everything fits and stay after it. Gas pedal to the floor.
I love it. Well, Sam, it's truly been an honor having you here on the IronCast.
Hey, it's been an honor being here on the famous IronCast podcast. I feel like I made it now. Like, I feel like this is like done. A new benchmark.
Yeah, you don't need
life.
To go to Iowa.
I think this is gonna go on my resume from here on out. Like, if you want to know what I'm about, go listen to Iron Podcast episode 2.
Sam, it's been really great having you here on the IronCast. You worked out of our Lebanon branch. That's kind of where I'm home based. I get around to a lot of the other stores, but just the folks here, I know we're all honored to have you be with us the last 9 months. You know, long enough, like we said, to have a baby. Yep, you're our little baby. The bun is done cooking in the oven. You're going to be birthed to the next thing. I don't know where we're going with that, but it's exciting. I know every person here that I talked to leading up to this about you just had amazing things to say. I'm glad that, you know, Sam White and Dale and all those that were there that day at that, you know, tractor rebuild. Yeah. It's important, you know, that in industry, you know, even us as a dealer, a John Deere dealership, that we do those things, get out there. And I'm glad that you had that mentality to take that initiative, take that opportunity, spend some time here. Obviously, you know, you're always welcome back. I'd love to have maybe you on down the road here to see where you.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe
how far you fail forwarded.
Yeah.
But thanks again, Sam, for being on the IronCast.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast the whole time. Whole 9 months. Been a blast. Every day has been a new challenge and a new fun story to tell.
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks again, Sam.
Hey, thank you. You bet.
Hey there, listeners. Wow, what an amazing journey we were just on with Sam Davis, right? What an inspiring young man, studying calculus, preparing for graduation, and oh yeah, working a part-time job here at GT&E. We unpacked a lot, and I'm sure all of us got a lot out of this talk. We got a deep dive into a work-based learning program from the lens of an 18-year-old in the construction industry. We answered the question probably many younger folks out there are asking, what if I don't want to go to college? What else is out there? We learned how Sam, a high school senior, is flipping the script on the trades through his co-op program, where he gained real-world experience in the construction industry while making money along the way. We also talked about intergenerational challenges that are out there, how we can pass that baton to the next by giving them a chance to learn, grow, and succeed in an amazing career. It was an honor to have Sam here at GT&E. Everyone that got to interact with him along the way all had amazing things to say about him. It's going to be really exciting to see how far this man can go. I'm seeing a great follow-up episode in the future with Sam. And if you're a student out there listening and interested in any of what we talked about on this episode, definitely check out our show notes. There's a link there for Samantha White, our HR director, and you'll learn a lot more. Thanks so much for listening to the IronCast. We're out.